I just remembered the beginning of a thought, um, but I never got around to exploring it. I was going to start off with the dark side of the moon and how that story of the first manned orbiter or whatever that you know flew. I don't know. It was one of the Apollos. Was it Apollo 13 or Apollo 11? I don't know. But they went they went to the moon, but they weren't going to land. They were just going to go around it and come back. Take some photos, um, do some measurements and stuff like that. And as they approach the moon, because they have to, go all the way around and come back out and slingshot gravity or whatever. I don't know, physics. Um, but they went out of range of communication. It's all done by radio, I think. I'm not even sure of that. But you know, as they go out of line of sight of the Earth, can't make any broadcast or receive any transmissions, so it just goes dark. Final instructions, final communications, and it just goes dark. And I don't know, I guess I could have looked it up, but how long that part of the trip um, was. And these were the first people to ever do this, and this was everything was brand new, and no one knew all the stuff that could go wrong. They knew a lot of things that they knew could go wrong, but they didn't know about all the things that they didn't know that could go wrong. And they were out of contact for at least hours. I think it was close. I don't know. I want to say like 3 or 4, maybe as many as 6 hours to go around the moon and come back out. And it was just static from ground control. That's all they could hear is just static. And after transmission cut out, and they didn't even know how long it was going to take. They knew projections of how long it would take to reconnect, to reestablish a link, that connection, and it was just waiting, waiting and hoping that things would be okay, because there was no guarantee. They were, and from the perspective of the people in the orbiter, they were doing their thing. They were staying on task, keeping up with their basic, routine procedures and maintenance, and taking their readings, because no one had ever been on the dark side of the moon, because there's the moon is tidally locked in orbit with the Earth, so the same face of the moon is always looking at us. Tidally locked. Yes. And so I think that's true. So no one had ever seen the dark side of the moon. I think that's right. And so they were just doing their thing, knowing that for their part that they were fine. They knew that they were out of contact. They knew that if anything happened, they would have no help, and there would be no SOS. But what could anybody on Earth do anyway? It's like make a recording. That's all anybody could do. If anything goes wrong up there, they can try to talk them through a problem that they might not be able to, do, but it's very little that anybody could actually do. They're on their own. They've got their training, and hopefully their training holds up, if something does go wrong. They're as prepared as they can get, as we know how to train people up. Well, at that point, I can only assume that we've gotten better procedures and better everything with manned flight. Not that we have much practice for it, because our society and culture seems to have lost its interest in space. Well, not lost, but it's not popular. We have more pressing concerns. Spaces. Maybe one day. And it's always running in the background. Anyway. So, and they come out from behind the dark side of the moon. Well, you know, there's a calculated estimate of when they will come back out, and that they can have a really good guess at, based on speed of travel, the diameter of the moon, and all that stuff, and acceleration rates and curves and asymptotes and parabolas. And but they, when they're supposed to show back up, they don't show back up. It just continues to be static. And people on Earth are just holding their breath. Because you really just don't know. Anything could have happened. The tiniest little, crack or piece of debris or any breach in the cabin. They could have lost air pressure, and there wouldn't be anything for it. It would just be a return trip with, well, they wouldn't make it. They would just fly off. Because course corrections need to be made. There's no just direct return, and it just automatically pilots itself back to Earth, and then there needs to be course corrections for it to make successful re-entry orbit and then descent and all that. So if something did happen to the occupants, it would just fly off into space forever, until something happened, of course. Which most likely, with as empty as space is, something would not really happen in any relative term, and it would just fly off on some random trajectory. But it would stay in orbit of the sun. So it would stay within the solar system. So anyway, after like a couple minutes after when they were supposed to have reestablished contact, the first contact happened, and the link was restored. Everything was fine. There was no problem. There never was, and there could have been, but there wasn't. And so everybody could finally breathe again and have some sense of confidence that they knew what they were doing. Not just the people up there, but the people down here. That this is not some, it became more real, that this was possible, that this could be done. Because up until that point, I don't know. I mean, there had been already trials and disasters leading up to that, just getting off the ground in the first place. A lot of tragedies and sacrifices had to be made, and it wasn't just United States lives. There was lots of other people trying to work on the same thing and competing with each other for politics and bragging rights. But all in the name of progress, I don't know. That's a whole different thing. But anyway, the main thing was dark side of the moon. And just not knowing. That not knowing. And just trusting in what is known. And, what is known is, not very much in comparison to what is not known. Because, the not known of the universe is like, whereas the known, or even what we think we know, it's so small. And the more we know, or the more we think we know about everything that we don't know, the less we know. So the more we understand, the less we know. It's a whole thing. It's like, wow. Don't even start. It's terrible. So, anyway, that was my thought on that. I woke up, it's now February, by the way. So I made it. I made it into February, and I'm still doing this. I didn't disappear. I wasn't sure. I thought about it, and I was like, nah, I'm okay. So, but I did think about it. But, I took I have to think about everything, obviously. That's what I do. I didn't think too hard. I didn't think, but it was a passing thing, like just like. But even then, I still knew. But then, eh. I catch the looks on my face sometimes. It's like catches me off guard. Mm. But I don't know. I'm still a fool though. But a little piece. I can breathe. It's like, I really, I still don't know what's going on. I still don't really have any information, but I feel better. Um, it's February 1st. It's Monday. I woke up around 4 a.m. So by now it's about 4:30. The world's still asleep, still dark. I don't hear anything. So anyway, I wanted to record something in February. I wonder if I should have a folder or something, like playlists, like January. And who knows if I'll keep this going. It's too early to tell. Or even consider. Until I have some. Oh, I think that's somebody's alarm clock. I have Mondays off. But a lot of people. They might have to work. Maybe that's one of the reasons I whisper. Because I know that I can hear other people sometimes when they're talking. Because this house is not it's not the greatest for sound insulation. And so I'm just subconsciously, or just somewhere, I know that if I can hear them, then they can hear me. So maybe that's why I whisper. I don't realize that that is why I whisper. So I'm being how do you say that word? Conscientious. It's a tough word. I'm being considerate. That's a better word, and I can say it better. So, anyway. Neighbor across the hall. I don't know. I don't know the layout of his apartment. I've never visited. In this many years, I have never visited. He's a nice guy. I just don't have any reason to. And he doesn't visit, so, and, I don't have visitors. It's just how it is. I would consider it, I mean, early on, it felt like I had to be social. I was forced to be social. Otherwise, I was doing something wrong, obviously. But now, it's like, no one can really say anything. It's like, I've been through enough that, yeah, people, it's like, they've just given up on me as far as, like, trying to get me to be like how they want me to be for them. That I was playing along for a while. I really was, because I thought that I had to. But as soon as I started realizing that wait a second. And that only solidified when I found out, I consciously was exposed to the fact, of my autistic diagnosis. And that just, because I already knew, but, or suspected, but until I saw it in writing, that didn't really, it didn't register. So that's a whole other story. So anyway, hopefully I'm not being too loud. I don't see how I possibly could. he actually, for about 2 years, well, maybe not two, seems like about 2 years, he kept paying for the rent for his apartment, but he didn't live there. He had a girlfriend, and he lived with her, but he kept the apartment and kept paying for it. And he just was never there. He was always at her place. And then it started getting really serious, and she was looking for some sort of commitment, and he wasn't. So he had been wanting to for a while, and yeah, and he's just, we're too different, and he broke things off. Broke her heart. And he came back into his apartment. So I was thrilled to have a neighbor that was never there but paid his rent. So that meant I had a full apartment of a known quantity, and I didn't have to worry about noise or some weird, strange stuff going on. You know, it's like, okay. And but I do feel bad for she was, like, a young woman, and she was older than him, and he's just, I guess he thought he was too young for a serious commitment or something. And for her part, she felt, and they both, it's like 2 years. From my perspective, that's a long time. I mean, any really, because I don't have. I'm going off the rails here because I don't have any personal experience with it. So it's like, but 2 years, it seems like a long time to invest in somebody, and then it just goes nowhere. And it just seems really, really sad. But I guess that happens all the time. I just don't have any, because you hear about, I mean, obviously, it happens all the time. So I don't know why I asked. Because I just don't have experience with it. So I guess that's why, one of the reasons I guess I'm cautious myself is because I don't want to do that. Keep it honest, an honest approach. It's like, I want to be rejected for being me. I don't want there to be anything hidden or mysteries or questions or, I mean, there's got to be some. There's all sorts of stuff I probably don't even think about because to me it's normal, and to me, I don't think about it. It would just be like, there'd be something I would say or something, a story that would pop up, and it's like, oh yeah, and then that would lead to other questions, and then be like, no. So, and I don't even know. I'm just rambling. I'm distracted too. He has a right to live in his apartment. He pays for the rent. I just miss, now I'm all self-conscious about the volume of my voice. It's like, I don't think I could be heard. Well, I could probably, the voice might be able to be heard, but I don't think the sound can travel that far. So, anyway, I'm going to probably go ahead and cut this off, just in case. I'll probably be back later today, but, I do have the whole day off, so. It's probably about 5 a.m. I don't know if there'll be a sunrise today. No, there will be, but how visible it will be, I don't know. But, I still don't know exactly quite how to feel about everything. whether I'll be okay, one way or the other. I mean, and it does have a religious kind of connotation, but it does apply even without religion. You know, it doesn't require the endorsement of religion or whatever. How's it go? Oh yeah. There is a plan. It's just not my plan. And I don't know what the plan is. But, you know, I'll know what I need to know at the time, when I need to know it. If I knew in advance, I'd behave differently. So, if I knew now what I'll know then it just messes everything up. So, anyway, this is weird.